Hello everyone. In the previous video, we have seen the Montagu Declaration of 1970, in which we have seen the that Montagu-Chelmsford Reform was to take place. That Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms was serves the basis has served the basis for the Government of India Act 1919. 1919 means Montagu Declaration served the basis for the Government of India Act. So let's today we are going to discuss the Government of India Act 1919. It is also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. So let's see first of all its introduction. So immediately after the declaration of 1917, Mr. Montagu, who was the Secretary of State of India at that time, came to India along with Mr. Chelmsford, who was the Viceroy of India at that time, and toured the India. After the tour of India, they prepared a report and suggested steps to implement the declaration of 1917. On the basis of their report, the British Parliament passed the Government of India Act 1919, which are also known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. So, name is given because it was given by the Montagu and Chelmsford. It was based on the report of the Montagu and Chelmsford. So now let's see the factor responsible for the passing of the Act of 1909. So basically the factor is similar to as of that of the Montagu Declaration of 1917, means the factor which led the declaration of 1917 are the same factor which led the declaration of the 1919. So for just revision purpose, let's see. Number one was the British of Revolutionary Movement, which we have seen that that though the British government was able to suppress the national movements, but it led the generation of fear in the mind of the Britishers. Also, we have seen the Home Rule movement, which was started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Mrs. Annie Besant. Reunion of moderate and extreme, which was divided in 1907 in the but after the death of two main leaders of this party, the Congress, they got united. Number fourth was the Congress League assessment and influence of the First World War, Mesopotamia Mandal, we have seen, and this satisfaction with the Act of 1909 and Montagu Declaration was also dissatisfaction with the Montagu Declaration was also one of the factors for the Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. So now let's see the main factors of the Act of 1919. So the Government of Indian Act 1919 was the first step towards the implementation of Montagu Declaration, and it brought far-reaching changes in the administrative structure of India. The Act started with preamble. Act start with preamble. Number one factor is Act start with preamble. So the Act of 1919 started with the preamble, and the promise made in the Declaration of 1917 were repeated in the preamble. So we know preamble is the introductory part of the Constitution. Preamble is the introductory part of the Constitution. So it was repeated in there. It also gave legal sanctions to the policy of the government as pronounced in the Montagu Declaration. The main objective declared in preamble were more and more Indians will be associated with the administration of India. Number one. Number two was the gradual progress of self-governing institution will be made in India. Number third is the progressive realization of responsible government in British India as an integral part of empire. And number fourth is the supremacy of the British Parliament was accepted. Number second provision of the Act of 1909 is division of subjects. So basically under the Act of 1919, the subjects were divided into two lists. Number one is central list and number two is provincial list. So in central list, the subjects of the national importance were included. The subjects of national importance were included in the central list, and these were 47 in number. The main subjects included in this list were defense, foreign and political relations, public debt, custom, post and telegraph, currency, communication, etc. So these subjects were of the centralist or of national importance. And in the provincial list, the total 51 subjects was included, and those comprises of local self-government, public health, sanitation, education, public workforce, irrigation, agriculture, etc. So the subjects were placed under the control of provincial government. So basically, the subjects under the provincial list was under the control of provincial government, and the subject under the central list was under the control of central government. Number third provision of the Act of 1919 was change in provincial government. So basically, the Act of 1919 envisaged new administration in the 9 British Indian provinces, which was known as Diarchy, means dual administration. Di means two, archy means administration. So diarchy was introduced in 9 British Indian provinces. The main purpose of this was to give training to Indian in art of self-government. Means one arc was of the British government and second was of the Indian government. So through this they wanted to teach Indians how to govern themselves. So under this new arrangement, the provincial subjects were further divided into two parts, such as reserved subjects and the transferred subjects. So let's see what were reserved subjects. So the land revenue, famine relief, irrigation, law and order, industrial matters, control of newspaper, etc. were kept as reserved subjects. And in transfer subjects, local self-government, public health, sanitation, education, etc. were entitled in the transferred list. Like provincial subjects, the provincial administration was also divided into two parts. As we have seen, provincial subjects was divided in as reserved subjects and transferred subjects. But provincial administration was divided into two parts. As number governor and his councillors were the first part of the administration, and governor and his ministries were the second part of the administration. The administration of the reserved subjects were entrusted to governor and his councillors, and the administration of the transferred subjects were entrusted to governor and his minister. So the ministers were responsible before the provincial legislature. Number fourth provision of Act 1990 is the division of the sources of revenue. So in order to minimize central control over provincial contributions, the Act made a complete separation of the central and provincial sources of revenue. So according to this arrangement, land revenue, excise, irrigation and stamps were made exclusively provincial items. The receipts acquired in in respect of these were to be remain with the provinces. So excise is the tax imposed on a specific goods and services produced. Income income from custom income tax, salt, opium, railways, post and telegraph, currency and coinage was to be exclusively concern of the center. And here we can see that the subjects under the control of provincial was more as compared to that of central. So to compensate the loss of the center, the provinces were to make contribution to take central to this central government. Means provinces need to contribute money to central government. So for now, let's stop here. Next video, we will see the changes in the central legislature. Thank you.